They thought they could break me. My wife and my best friend, scheming behind my back while I quietly amassed a fortune of $500,000 a year. Little did they know, their betrayal would light the fuse for their own downfall. And I'd be there, watching from the sidelines, as karma took its course. The moment Emma decided to unravel our marriage is etched in my memory. She sat at our kitchen table in our cozy Seattle home, scrolling through her phone with a careless ease that hid the bomb she was about to drop. I'd just walked in from a grueling day at work, ready to shed my jacket and unwind, when she looked up and delivered the blow. "James, I'm done. I want a divorce." No preamble, no softening, just a cold, blunt statement, tossed out like she was commenting on the gray Pacific Northwest drizzle outside. I froze, my bag still slung over my shoulder, unsure if I'd heard her right. "Come again?" I asked, my voice calm despite the storm brewing inside. "I said I want a divorce," she repeated, her tone sharp, as if I were too slow to grasp it the first time. I should have been enraged, maybe shattered, but her sheer audacity left me speechless. Divorce? After all we'd built together? The real gut punch was her reasoning. "I can't keep living like this," she said, crossing her arms tightly. "I need someone who actually works, who contributes something. This isn't the life I signed up for." I nearly laughed. Doesn't work? For years I'd poured my heart into my career, building a six-figure income, $500,000 annually, crafting a future most could only dream of. But Emma? She never bothered to ask about my work, never showed a flicker of interest in where our money came from. She assumed I was coasting, barely scraping by. I leaned against the counter, studying her. She sat there, so certain, so convinced she was making the right move. "All right," I said simply, setting my bag down. She tilted her head, caught off guard. "All right?" "Yeah, Emma," I replied. "If you want out, I won't stop you." For a fleeting moment, doubt flickered across her face, but she quickly masked it with that smug, self-assured smile I'd come to know too well. "Good," she said. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. You'll need to move out by the end of the month." Out of my house? Her nerve was almost comical, but I didn't argue. If she wanted me gone, I'd go. For now. "Fair enough," I said, heading upstairs. I could feel her eyes on me, waiting for me to crack, to beg, to fight. But I gave her nothing. In the quiet of our bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed, letting the weight of it all sink in. This wasn't just about ending a marriage, it was about control. Emma wanted to paint me as the failure, to feel like she held all the power. Maybe she thought I'd grovel, plead for a chance to win her back. But she didn't know me as well as she thought. The days that followed were a masterclass in passive-aggressive warfare. Suddenly, she had opinions on everything. How I folded the laundry, how I spent my evenings, even the way I brewed my morning coffee. It was as if she was crafting a narrative to justify her decision, turning me into the villain. Then, there was Lucas, my so-called best friend. At first, I didn't think much of how often she mentioned him. Lucas said this, Lucas suggested that, but soon it became clear he wasn't just a friend in her eyes. I didn't confront her. Why tip my hand? Instead, I let her believe she was in charge, that I was the oblivious husband too wrapped up in my own world to notice hers unraveling. One evening, as I packed a suitcase with the bare essentials, Emma leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a smirk playing on her lips. "So, have you figured out where you're staying?" she asked, her voice dripping with condescension. I zipped the bag and turned to face her. "Don't worry about me, Emma. I'll be just fine." She huffed, clearly annoyed by my calm demeanor. "Good. Because Lucas and I are planning a dinner party here next weekend. It'd be awkward if you were still hanging around." "A dinner party? In my house? With my best friend?" Her gall was almost impressive. "Don't worry," I said, slinging the bag over my shoulder. "I'll be long gone by then." As I brushed past her, I caught that smug smile again. She thought she'd won, thought I was slinking away in defeat. What she didn't realize was that she'd just handed me the match to light the fuse. If she wanted to burn everything down, I'd let her, and I'd watch the flames consume her and Lucas both. Sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting or fighting. It's silence, patience, letting the other person dig their own grave while you quietly prepare to bury them in it. And trust me, I was just getting started. Betrayal doesn't come with fireworks or fanfare. It slips in quietly, disguised as casual conversations and harmless gestures, until one day you wake up and realize everything you thought was solid has crumbled. Emma's demand for a divorce was the first crack, but what followed was the steady unraveling of everything I thought I knew about her. And Lucas, the man I'd called my best friend for years. I should have seen it coming, but hindsight is a cruel companion. At first, it was subtle. Emma started mentioning Lucas's name more often. Lucas said this. Lucas recommended that, tossing it out casually over dinner. I'd nod, not thinking much of it. He was a close friend to both of us, after all. But as the weeks went on, his name slipped into our conversations with a warmth that made my stomach twist. The first real red flag came on a Saturday afternoon in late spring. Emma came back from one of her lunches with Lucas, her cheeks flushed, her laughter brighter than it had been in years. When I asked what was so funny, she waved me off with a dismissive, "Oh, it's just something Lucas said, you wouldn't get it." Wouldn't get it. Since when had I been pushed to the outside of our marriage, looking in? The answer, I realized, was far earlier than I'd cared to admit. I started noticing more. The sly smiles as she typed texts and quickly locked her phone, the way she'd dress up more carefully whenever she had plans with Lucas, the excuses about how they were just friends and I was overthinking things. Overthinking? That's the go-to word for anyone trying to shift the blame. I didn't confront her, though. What was the point? She'd only deny it, spin the story to make me look paranoid. So I let her think I was blind, too preoccupied to notice her life unraveling. The real blow came when Lucas showed up at my house, uninvited. I was in the middle of packing, fitting my life into suitcases as Emma had so graciously requested, when the doorbell rang. There he was, striding in with that ever-confident grin, like we were still the best of friends. "James, my man," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "How's it going?" I stared, every ounce of patience strained to its limit. "What do you want, Lucas?" I asked, keeping my voice even. He leaned against the wall, all nonchalance and charm. "Just checking in. Emma told me you're moving out. Thought I'd see if you needed help." Help? From the man moving into my life? The audacity was almost admirable. "I've got it handled," I replied, turning back to my packing. Lucas lingered, and when I glanced over, I could see the wheels turning in his head. He wasn't here to help. He was here to gloat, to stake his claim. "Listen," he said, his voice taking on a tone he probably thought sounded sincere. "I know this must be hard, but things happen, you know? Life's unpredictable." "Things happen," I echoed, stepping closer, forcing him to meet my eyes. "Yeah, Lucas, things do happen, and sometimes they come back to bite you." For the first time, his confident smirk wavered, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. I didn't wait for him to recover. I turned back to my suitcase, dismissing him. "You've always been a cool guy, James," he said awkwardly, retreating toward the door. "No hard feelings, right?" I didn't respond. Silence is a powerful thing, especially when someone's desperate for a reaction. Lucas left without another word, and as his car disappeared down the street, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. That night, alone in the bedroom that would soon no longer be mine, I replayed the past few months, the missed signals, the lies, the betrayal. I could have been angry, could have confronted them both, demanded answers. But what would that accomplish? They'd already written me off as irrelevant, a footnote in their story. What they didn't know was that I wasn't the passive, clueless husband they thought. I'd been paying attention, taking mental notes, and planning my next steps. If Emma and Lucas thought they could waltz off into the sunset without consequences, they were in for a rude awakening. Betrayal doesn't end when the truth comes out. That's when the real game begins, and I was ready to play. Divorce is a small word for such a messy reality. It implies finality, a clean break. But for Emma, it was a victory lap, a celebration of what she thought was an upgrade. She walked into the Portland courtroom in a tailored dress that screamed sophistication, her confident smile making my stomach churn. Lucas lingered outside, not daring to enter, but his presence said everything. She wasn't just divorcing me, she was flaunting her betrayal like a badge of honor. "James, let's not drag this out," she said as we sat across from each other at the negotiation table. "I don't want this to be harder than it needs to be." The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd already made it as hard as possible, stomping on years of marriage like it was a worn-out rug. The lawyer laid out her demands: the house, some furniture, and a chunk of what she thought was my meager savings. She probably expected me to fight, to beg for a better deal, but I didn't flinch. I signed every document without hesitation. Emma blinked, confused. "You're okay with all this?" "Why wouldn't I be?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "It's just stuff, Emma. You can have it." Doubt crept into her expression, but she quickly covered it with that smug smile. She thought she'd won, that she was walking away with everything that mattered. What she didn't know was that the house was a rental, a workspace I'd used when I started freelancing years ago. And the savings she thought she was getting? A fraction of my wealth, tucked away in investments she didn't even know existed. As the papers were signed and the divorce finalized, Emma leaned back satisfied. "I'm glad we could handle this like adults," she said, her tone patronizing. I nodded, biting back a laugh. A week later, I packed up and left the house she'd fought so hard for. I left her the furniture, the decorations, even the expensive kitchen gadgets she'd never used. It wasn't worth the trouble. Lucas wasted no time moving in. A neighbor texted me a photo of him unloading boxes, Emma standing on the porch with that same smug smile. They thought they were building their perfect life, completely unaware of the storm brewing just beyond their View Gong Lu. System. View. I'd been collecting evidence of their affair for months. Photos, texts, even GPS logs of their lunches at a nearby hotel. I could have used it to drag the divorce out in court, but I didn't. Why prolong the drama? I wanted something more satisfying, to watch karma take its course while I sat back and enjoyed the show. In the weeks that followed, I settled into my new life. My career skyrocketed, new opportunities flooding in, my income climbing past $533,000 a year. Meanwhile, Emma and Lucas paraded their perfect relationship around town, oblivious to the cracks forming beneath them. A friend texted me one day. "James, Emma's throwing a housewarming party. They're really leaning into this." I chuckled. Of course they were. Emma lived for appearances, for the illusion of success. She had no idea her shiny new life was built on sand. One evening, as I gazed out at the Portland skyline from my new apartment, a sense of peace washed over me. Emma thought she'd won, but she'd lost more than she could imagine. Lucas was about to learn that stealing someone's life comes at a cost. I wasn't in a hurry. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and I was just warming up. The cracks in their facade didn't take long to show. Whispers from mutual friends painted a grim picture. Emma and Lucas were struggling to keep up their dream life. A buddy told me Emma was hosting lavish dinner parties to show off, but they were drowning in debt. Lucas, always one for flash over substance, loved expensive suits and fancy cars, but lacked the income to sustain them. Emma hadn't realized she'd traded stability for a man who was all show. Then came the gossip about their fights, shouting matches that echoed through the walls of their rented house. Yes, rented. The house Emma had fought for in the divorce was a rental, and they couldn't afford the upkeep. One day, a neighbor called, barely containing her laughter. "James, you won't believe this. Their landlord was banging on their door this morning, 3 months behind on rent." I leaned back, smiling. Poetic justice. The life they'd built on betrayal was crumbling under their own arrogance. Meanwhile, my career flourished. New projects rolled in, my income grew, and I poured myself into building something real. Emma and Lucas, they were too busy pretending to notice. Then Emma reached out. A text, feigning friendliness. "Hi James, hope you're doing well. Just checking in." I could sense the desperation beneath her words. I played along. "Things are great, Emma. Business is booming. You?" Her reply came fast. "Oh, Lucas and I are doing okay. Things are a bit tight, but we're managing." Managing? That was generous. A week later, I saw her outside a client meeting, looking tired and frayed. "James," she called, her voice tinged with uncertainty. I approached, neutral. "What's up, Emma?" She fidgeted with her purse. "I thought we could catch up. Things have been tough lately." Catch up? I knew what she wanted, but I wasn't making it easy. "I'm busy," I said. "Hope things improve." Her forced smile cracked as I walked away. Karma was doing its job. Their downfall wasn't a bang, but a slow crumble. Emma's social media posts, fancy dinners, lavish vacations, faded, replaced by forced smiles and budget clothes. Lucas, once a flashy showman, recycled outfits he used to wear once. A friend called with the news, "James, they're months behind on rent, facing eviction." I chuckled. Emma had fought for that house, only to learn she couldn't afford it. Their arguments grew louder, their debt deeper. Another friend laughed. Their power got cut off mid-dinner party. Emma was mortified, and Lucas played it off like a mistake, but everyone knew. Emma texted again, desperate. "James, I need to talk, it's important." I replied, "Is everything okay?" Her response, "Not really, Lucas and I are struggling. Could you help with a loan?" I laughed at the irony. She'd left me, mocked my work ethic, and now wanted my money? "Sorry, Emma, I can't. You'll figure it out." Her next message was sharp. "Please, just this once. Don't make it a big deal." I didn't reply. A week later, they were evicted, forced into a rundown apartment on the edge of town. A friend said, "James, it's a far cry from their old life. Emma's barely holding it together, and Lucas looks 10 years older." I ran into Emma at a grocery store, her cart filled with store-brand essentials. She froze when she saw me, her confident facade gone. "James?" she said, her voice shaky. "Emma," I replied, neutral. She tried to speak but couldn't. "Hope you're doing well," I said. She mumbled, "You too," and hurried off. Satisfaction mixed with pity. She'd built this life and was trapped in it. I didn't need to do anything. Karma was enough. The final blow came when Emma called, her voice cracking. "James, we need to talk." I sighed. "About what?" She hesitated. "About everything. Lucas, us." I raised an eyebrow. "Us?" That ended with the divorce papers. "What's this about?" She admitted, "We're struggling financially. Could you help?" I laughed. "You left me because I wasn't good enough. Now you want my help? Not a chance." She protested. "You don't understand. It's just a rough patch." I cut her off. "You chose Lucas, Emma. Enjoy your freedom." I hung up. A week later, she showed up at my office, frazzled. "James, we need to talk," she said, brushing past my assistant. 2 minutes, I replied. She rambled about their struggles, begging for a small favor. I interrupted. "You thought Lucas was an upgrade. How's that working out?" Her face flushed. "You don't have to be cruel." "Cruel?" I laughed. "I owe you nothing." Lucas walked in, disheveled. "James, can we talk man to man?" I stood. "Like when you were with my wife? Save it." He pressed. "We're in a tough spot. Just a small loan." I shook my head. "You betrayed me. And now you want my money? Lie in your bed." Emma pleaded. "We're desperate." I opened the door. "Desperation doesn't erase betrayal. We're done." They shuffled out, heads low, and I felt closure. They thought they could guilt me, but I was stronger. Their relationship fractured. A friend, Carla, called. "James, Lucas is seeing someone else." Emma caught him texting a younger woman from his new job. And their public cafe fight, coffee thrown and all, was legendary. Lucas blamed Emma for their financial woes. She demanded he fix it. He moved out, leaving her in their dingy apartment, unable to pay rent. She called me, furious. "You were right about Lucas. He's a liar." I replied, "You chose him, Emma. How's that going?" She hung up. Lucas moved in with his new fling, who soon dumped him. He ended up jobless, couch surfing. Emma had no job, no savings, no support. Her family and friends drifted away, tired of her drama. While they crumbled, I soared. My income hit $513,000. My career thriving with new contracts, speaking gigs, and investments. I upgraded to a sleek penthouse in downtown Seattle. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist decor, a skyline view that reminded me daily of my triumph. I reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and started a blog. Part journal, part professional insights, that took off. Therapy helped me process the betrayal, my therapist's words guiding me. "You're only responsible for your response." I heard whispers of their spiral. Unpaid bills, arguments, a dinner party where the power went out. I ran into Lucas at a coffee shop, haggard, scrolling job listings. "James," he said awkwardly, "how's it going?" I raised an eyebrow. "Good. You?" He muttered about work, but his eyes betrayed him. I let the silence stretch and he hurried off. Emma's messages grew desperate. I could use a friend, James. I ignored most, replying briefly to a few, giving her nothing. She'd made her choices. Their downfall was a slow, crumbling mess. Emma's social media posts, fancy dinners, vacations faded, replaced by forced smiles and cheap clothes. They were evicted, moving to a rundown apartment. A friend laughed. James, Emma's a mess and Lucas looks ancient. I didn't gloat. Their failure wasn't about me. It was their own doing. Emma texted, James, I need to talk. It's important. I replied, is everything okay? She said, not really. Could you help? I laughed. Sorry, I can't. Her next message was sharp. Please, just this once. I didn't reply. I ran into Emma at a grocery store, her cart filled with store-brand items. She froze, defeated. James? She said shakily. Emma, I replied. She couldn't speak. Hope you're doing well, I said. She mumbled, you too, and fled. I felt satisfaction and pity. She was trapped in the life she chose. Karma didn't need my help. It just needed time. Emma called again, her voice breaking. James, we need to talk. I sighed. What's this about? She admitted. We're struggling. Could you help? I laughed. You left me because I wasn't enough. Now you want my money? No chance. She protested, but I cut her off. Enjoy your freedom. I hung up. She showed up at my office, desperate. 2 minutes, I said. She begged for help. I interrupted. You thought Lucas was better. How's that going? She flushed. Don't be cruel. Cruel? I laughed. I owe you nothing. Lucas walked in, disheveled. Man to man? He said. I stood. Like when you betrayed me? Save it. He begged for a loan. I shook my head. Lie in your bed. Emma pleaded. We're desperate. I opened the door. This is over. They left, defeated. Carla called. Lucas is seeing someone else. Emma caught him texting a younger woman, and their cafe fight, coffee throne, was the talk of the town. Lucas blamed Emma. She demanded he fix it. He moved out, leaving her unable to pay rent. She called me. You were right about Lucas. I replied, how's that choice working out? She hung up. Lucas's new fling dumped him. He ended up jobless, couch surfing. Emma had no job, no savings, no one left. Her life, built on lies, was ash. I thrived. My income soared, my penthouse gleamed. My blog flourished. Therapy taught me to focus on my response, not their choices. I reconnected with friends, traveled, and found peace. Their spiral, unpaid bills, arguments, eviction, was their own doing. I didn't need revenge. Living well was enough. Their chapter closed and mine began, brighter, bigger, better than they could ever imagine. Thank you for listening. Please share your thoughts, like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe for more.